Midday light spilled across the marble amphitheater as Kael'tari and human dignitaries gathered for Unity Day. Beneath towering banners woven with both solar forge filaments and alien glyphs, the Kael'tari president stood ready, about to speak. Every eye turned skyward as the planetary anthem began a resonant tone that activated psionic amplifiers fluttering overhead. The crowd bristled with anticipation. Humans clutched programs, faces solemn. Kael'tari scholars whispered among themselves about fragile humans saved only by intellect. The music swelled, and security forces mech guards in sleek-hulled armor, psionic field emitters embedded in their carapaces, sealed the perimeter. No one noticed the assassin's arrival. A blast tore through the dome's geodesic shell. A figure in hyper-reinforced armor appeared amid the gathering, weapon-crackling plasma. Panic erupted. Psionic shields flickered. Mech guards seized up. The crowd froze. One Kael'tari security commander's forehead pulsed red. His field collapsed. Their textbooks had said humans were weak, unworthy of physical regard. Now their own defenses collapsed before an intruder. Then the assassin raised his plasma cannon, aimed at the president. Time slowed from the human vantage, if only for a heartbeat. A thunderous clap shattered the moment. A shockwave ripped through the hall. The assassin slammed against three walls in a blur, his armor dented, the weapon tumbling to the floor. Stone shards rained down. Silence. The assassin looked up, stunned. Alex hovered 50 feet above the dais, motionless in mid-air. Kael'tari jaws dropped. Humans in suits gasped. The president stumbled backward, trembling. Alex dropped. In one heartbeat, he crossed the distance. He looked peaked. Sweat beaded on his temples despite the armor woven with solar-forged steel. Under his flight-accorded suit, fine patterns glowed faintly traces of Venus-forged biotech. He knelt beside the motionless target, pressing a finger to a temple. His vision layered. He could see blood coursing, neural spikes, nanodynamic tracers in the assassin's implants. He punched once. The figure went limp. Alex stood. Something heavy slammed into his palm, and Sparkin crumbled. He blinked and crushed it further, the bomb's timing mechanism. A shard of solid-state circuitry melted into his fingers as though it were wax. He tossed the fragments aside. Then he inhaled deeply and stepped toward the president. A final discharge plasma bolts erupted from the assassin's pistol anyway. They filled the chamber with sizzling light. Alex pivoted, raising an arm. He leaned into the blast. The white-blue corona washed over him. Then no scream. His suit held. His body remained between the weapon and the president, absorbing hundreds of megajoules. When the light died, the president lay trembling behind Alex's back. Amid the falling dust, Alex rose. He turned toward the Kael'tari crowd. Their faces were frozen. They had studied humans as fragile. Now that belief lay in ruins. Kael'tari medics rushed forward. The president was badly shaken, palpitations, minor radiation exposure, a concussion, but stable. Under hyperbaric field treatment and Neuralicom scion damping, he would recover in days, maybe a week if there were complications. Doctors worked swiftly, securing intravenous lines, monitoring vitals, running imaging scans. Alex knelt beside them. A Kael'tari elder official approached, eyes wide. She reached out to steady the president's hand. Alex immediately offered medical status. His suit sustained microfractures. Tremors radiated from his joints. He needed full cellular resonant recalibration, likely 24 hours of solar forge regeneration plus targeted stem recovery protocols for muscle microtears. Realistic. Standard human biomechanical repair with solar augmentation. Not miraculous. Exhausting. Necessary. The elder blinked. You heal like a machine. Alex shook his head. He flexed a wrist, wincing. Flesh and bone, not machine. Takes time. A hum rose through the amphitheater as communication channels flooded every screen. Transmission feeds looped the footage. Alex smashing through walls at near-eye light speed, standing unshaken in a plasma inferno, shielding the president. Social media buzzed. Kael'tari researchers could detect subsonic harmonics in the sonic turbulence he'd created. Diplomatic circles whispered, "They called humans weak until now." In the days that followed, the amphitheater lay partially collapsed. Structural engineers debated, did Alex's entry exceed designed safety margins? Could sonic ghost waves disrupt sensitive gear? His arrival had shattered outer walls, set off seismic dampeners, and triggered emergency resonances that knocked offline auxiliary power grids. The Kael'tari weren't angry, just stunned. The damage was repairable in weeks, but the embarrassment was permanent. A junior intelligence officer, Lucy, studied encrypted communications at her terminal. She pulled up a swath of diplomatic chatter. Hidden behind mundane updates was a dormant Earth-U Kael'tari channel labeled Project Resonant. Against her training, she opened the files. They revealed seed funding, directives, genetic blueprints, and mission protocols. Earth's covert initiative to create and embed heroes like Alex across allied planets. Alex's codename. Sentinel-1. Stand-in guardians in case human diplomacy and psionics failed. He had been placed by design. Meanwhile, the Kael'tari High Command reviewed their archives. A dusty, unsigned treaty addendum surfaced in translation memos. Clause 42.3. Earth retains the right to deploy strategic biological assets in Allied territories during crisis events. They'd agreed but never read the fine print. Their leaders stiffened at the wording. Earth had the legal right to station beings like Alex among them. What they saw now as emergency defense had been baked into their compact. Word reached Alex. He sat alone in a regeneration chamber aboard the hovering embassy craft. Biotech glass walls showed the city skyline. He flexed fingers, muscles realigning. He felt drained. This assignment had been quiet until today. He remembered why he'd accepted it. Friendship with the late Kael'tari diplomat Sirek, who had mentored him in earliest contact days. He had promised to stand watch. But now everything had shifted. Alex stared at his reflection in the purifying filter glass. A hero, a weapon, a symbol, fragile no longer. The aftershocks weren't seismic, but cultural. 2 days after the Unity Day incident, Alex's name no longer needed translation. Across Kael'tari cities, his image spread in holograms and news streams. The moment he dropped from the sky, the flick of his wrist that turned a ticking plasma bomb into harmless slag, the way he stood between the president and death without hesitation. Poets debated whether he'd come down like a meteor or a prayer. Children wore mock visors mimicking his solar forge lenses. Artists rendered his armor in glass and vapor stone. But not everyone celebrated. In the central chamber of the Kael'tari Council spire, voices clashed. The Elder Assembly met beneath memory screens that projected records of their species' history, while hushed assistants monitored translation relays. Elder Vosk leaned forward, his voice tight. This was not assistance. This was an undeclared deployment of foreign biological ordnance. Biological ordnance? Councilor Rena snapped. He saved the president's life. Our own mech guards failed. You want to accuse Earth of, what? Too much foresight? Vosk's gaze hardened. We were told humans were fragile, diplomatically useful, emotionally erratic. Nothing suggested this. Rena gestured toward a display showing Alex mid-flight. Perhaps it's our own arrogance that blinds us. Earth hid their strength because they feared our reaction. They weren't wrong. Lucy, the junior intelligence officer, stood behind a data podium, her skin petals flushed with stress. She'd been summoned for testimony after decrypting Project Resonant. She tapped her tablet. A cascade of documents filled the screen. This was not a violation, she said. Project Resonant was listed in subclause communications dating back 12 years. We signed authorization. She looked directly at Vosk. You signed it. Gasps fluttered across the chamber. Vosk stiffened, but said nothing. Lucy continued. Sentinel-1 codename Alex was one of 7 designated biostrategic anchors, all Earth deployed, quietly embedded in Alliance member worlds. All were non-interventional unless triggered by existential threats. This incident qualified. Another screen lit. Photos of Alex in diplomatic events, charity infrastructure projects, even serving meals at a fusion outreach station. He had been there all along, hiding in plain sight. Not watching from shadows working among them. And Earth never told us? Another counselor asked. They did, Lucy said. We just never looked beyond what we wanted to see. While the council argued, Alex remained in recovery. Inside the Earth Embassy's biofield chamber, he stood submerged waist-deep in golden synthesis fluid, cables threading from spine to ceiling. His vitals scrolled across translucent walls. A human medic named Tara knelt nearby, inspecting a tendon regrowth report. You tore your brachialis. Not completely, but enough that you were leaking microfibrils into your lymph system. Nerve conductivity was down 14%. You should have passed out. Alex nodded. Almost did, but I didn't. She handed him a drink laced with nanocalcium and protein synths, and you took a plasma blast without full armor shielding. Idiot. He smiled faintly. Didn't have time. Priorities. Yeah, well, your spine still lit up like a Christmas tree on the scans. I'm scheduling another recalibration pulse at 0500. Don't argue. I wasn't going to, he muttered, but she was already walking off. Alex looked around the chamber. Solar forge energy flowed through containment rings above. Earth's greatest biotech lay housed inside an embassy suite smaller than a Kael'tari cargo yard. Not exactly Olympus. The door opened. Counselor Rena entered. Alone. No guards. No translation drones. She spoke fluent Earth standard learned, she once told him, because she'd found human idioms amusing. I thought you'd be bigger, she said. I shrink in captivity, he replied. She chuckled, but only for a moment. You should know there's division in the assembly. Some think your presence was manipulation. He frowned. I didn't come to manipulate. I came to protect. You did both. He exhaled slowly. I didn't expect it to go public. Well, it did. And now I have to answer questions I never imagined asking. About trust. About power. She stepped closer. Were there others like you? He hesitated. Yes, but not many. One on Ethrex Prime, another in the Luvian Concord, I think. We weren't mass-produced. Each of us was matched with a planet based on cultural and political alignments. And you chose us? Number I was asked. I said yes because of Cyrek. She tilted her head. You knew him well. He was my friend. He believed in your people before anyone did. He said Kael'tari culture was built on legacy and layered perception. He thought we could learn from that. Alex looked down. When he died, I took his place. Quietly. She absorbed this, then nodded once. I wish he were here to see it. Alex sighed. So do I. Across the city, another debate flared, not political, but personal. Jor, a young Kael'tari student, stood in the plaza, where the assassination had nearly succeeded. Holograms replayed Alex's actions in a continuous loop. Jor's skin shifted with emotional pigment markers. Blue for awe, red for confusion, white for frustration. His mentor, Elder Moraine, stood beside him. You admire the human, Moraine observed. He risked everything, Jor said. He didn't hesitate. Our own guards couldn't even move. Moraine folded her arms. And yet we knew nothing of his existence, his power. Does that make his actions less valuable? Number. But it changes what we must teach. Strength now has a new context. Jor stared at the replay again. Maybe we've misunderstood strength all along. Back at the embassy, Alex was finally cleared to walk unaided. His muscle density had stabilized, microtears sealed, and neurological mapping had returned to baseline thresholds. He still moved stiffly realistic for a man who took a plasma bolt at point blank and shielded another being with his bare body. Healing took time, even for a solar sentinel, and there were side effects. He paused by a window. Outside, crowds gathered not in protest but admiration. Some held banners thanking Earth. Others waved images of him, hand-sketched or projection rendered. A child waved a flag with a clumsily drawn human silhouette. Alex flinched. Tara stepped beside him. You okay? Overstim. Too much noise. His hearing was still readjusting. Hypersensory implants had gone into shock during the explosion and were recalibrating slower than expected. Can't filter out heartbeats yet. You need another night in low stimulus mode. He nodded. Yeah. But when he turned, he didn't head for the chamber. Instead, he walked to the front doors of the embassy. The human guards moved to stop him but paused. He held up a hand, then opened the doors. A hush fell over the crowd. Alex stepped onto the plaza. No fanfare, no armor, just a plain thermal shirt and reinforced slacks. He looked like any man, except he wasn't percent, and everyone knew it now. He raised a hand, not high, not dramatically, just a wave. A small cheer began. Then more. Then the anthem, the Kael'tari anthem, played from a local broadcast tower. Alex stood still, unsure of how to respond. Rena watched from a balcony above. She turned to her aide. "Schedule a meeting with Earth's ambassador. Tell them, we need to talk about these sentinels." The aide hesitated. "You think they'll deploy more?" "I think they already have." And across the stars, faint ripples of awareness spread. On Ethrex Prime, a masked healer walked through a burning village and extinguished the fire with his breath. In the Luvian Concord, a ship breached re-entry with no heat shield and landed softly. No one saw who piloted it. Earth had seated guardians in plain sight, and now one of them had been seen. What that meant would unfold, slowly, like a star blooming into nova. By the third rotation after Unity Day, the Kael'tari capital was no longer the same city. The amphitheater remained under repair, surrounded by scaffolding and structural drones. The presidential dome, once a symbol of incorruptible unity, was now marked with impact lines, scarring that even the most gifted architects argued against erasing. "Let the lines remain," one of them suggested, "to remember what we almost lost and what saved us." But not all wanted to remember. In a shadowed vault beneath the council spire, Elder Vosk stood before a hemispheric display of classified files. The walls whispered with encrypted speech, accessible only to high command. He stared at the playback of Alex's intervention again, the blur, the impact, the aftermath. He froze the frame where Alex held the shattered plasma core in his hand. He zoomed in. It wasn't the weapon that unnerved him. It was Alex's eyes. The gaze wasn't victorious. It was pained, focused, human. He shut the feed and activated a separate channel. A secure line crackled to life. A Kael'tari operative's voice responded instantly. "Begin evaluation," Vosk said. "Confirm if other sentinels are present in our quadrant. Discreetly. I want full analysis on Earth's covert placements past and current." "But sir," the operative replied, "we signed Clause 42.3. It was legal." "Legal doesn't mean safe." Vosk ended the call and turned away. In his heart, the memory of helplessness during the assassination gnawed deeper than he admitted. They had been defenseless, undone by a single anomaly. And Earth had planned for this. Without warning, without humility. Elsewhere, Lucai was doing her own quiet reckoning. In the archives division beneath the Diplomatic Academy, she scrolled through the Project Resonant dossiers again. There was something she couldn't let go of, not just the placement of Alex, but the language Earth used in its internal files. "Not merely defensive," one line read. "These operatives should serve as touchstones, embodied reassurance of Earth's continued vigilance and moral contract with its allies." Moral contract. Lucai knew Earth's history better than most. They didn't idolize power. They feared it. Everything about Project Resonant had a restraint clause. Alex's enhancements were immense, yes, but paired with dampening protocols. His body could withstand atmospheric re-entry, but only for 90 seconds. His hearing could isolate a heartbeat in 1,000 voices, but prolonged exposure caused pain. His strength could shatter star steel, yet his bones remained human. He wasn't made for domination. He was made for one thing, to stand in front of danger when no one else could. And it had nearly killed him. She closed the file. For a species they once mocked for softness, Earth had chosen to make their protectors carry unbearable weight. Across the city, Alex sat in a quiet rooftop garden atop the embassy. No news drones, no admirers. Just filtered sunlight and the scent of red-rooted flora adapted from Terran orchids. His muscles ached not from damage but from recalibration. He flexed a hand absent-mindedly. The tremor was gone. Finally. Tara approached with a med scanner. "You've stabilized," she said. "Recalibration complete. Neural conductivity back in range. Blood pressure's almost human again." "Almost?" he said. She squinted. "Well, Resting heart rate of 32 beats per minute and oxygen processing 6 times baseline isn't standard, but I won't tell the Kael'tari if you don't." He gave a tired laugh. She sat beside him, her expression softening. "You gonna be all right?" He stared across the skyline. "Honestly? I don't know. You've faced worse. Physically? Sure, but this," he rubbed his chest lightly, "this was supposed to stay hidden. I was supposed to be background. Now they look at me like I'm a myth." "You are." He looked at her. "Do you know how many times I've been near failure? Close to losing control?" Tara nodded. "That's what makes you human, Alex." He didn't reply. Down below, the presidential convoy made its first public appearance since the attack. President Kael'tari emerged from the transport shell, escorted by both Kael'tari guards, and now an Earth security liaison. Subtle, but not unnoticed. He walked with a visible limp. Reports from the medical team indicated he'd suffered mild vestibular trauma during the plasma shockwave. No permanent damage, but balance issues might persist for weeks. He had also undergone a retinal renewal procedure routine for plasma flash injuries, but recovery required daily rest cycles for at least 10 days. Despite this, he stood tall before the reporters. His voice, slightly hoarse, cut through the chatter. "I owe my life to a friend, one whom we misjudged not just as a people, but as a civilization. We looked at humanity and saw only intellect. We forgot to look at their choices." When a Kael'tari reporter asked if he'd known about Alex's origins, he answered without pause, "I did not. But I am grateful someone somewhere in Earth's chain of command had the wisdom to send him." That single sentence sent ripples through the galactic newsweb. Opinion polls within Kael'tari society shifted. Trust in Earth spiked among younger generations, while conservative factions issued thinly veiled statements warning against reliance on unverified ultra-biological operatives. An internal vote loomed in the Elder Assembly should Kael'tari re-evaluate their strategic reliance on psionics. Should they begin biological enhancement programs of their own? Amid the frenzy, Rena visited the Earth Embassy again. She found Alex in the courtyard, sitting beside a Kael'tari child, the same one who had waved the flag from the plaza days ago. The boy asked questions in broken English. Alex answered patiently. "Can you fly through a mountain?" "Number. The mountain would win." "Can you hear what I'm thinking?" "Not unless you say it out loud." "Do you get scared?" Alex paused. "Yes, all the time." The child blinked, then nodded solemnly. "Me too." Rena watched from a distance. When Alex noticed her, he stood and approached. "Counselor." "Alex." She hesitated, then gestured toward the child. "You have fans now." "I didn't ask for them." "I know, that's why it matters." She took a breath. "We're reviewing the treaty clauses, not to undo them just, to understand better what partnership means now. I support that. Some want to request another sentinel, to feel safer." He frowned. "It doesn't work like that. We're not deployable assets. We're volunteers." "Still," she said, "knowing you're here, that changes everything." Later that night, Lucy stood before the council with her final report. Earth did not create these sentinels to rule, but to reassure. They are not weapons, they are promises, and whether we accept that promise defines the alliance we claim to cherish. The chamber fell quiet, and far from the capital, in a small listening outpost on Kael'tari's oceanic moon, a deep space ping arrived, encoded in Earth Standard, a check-in message, signed with a 3-digit code. Resonant 3, status green. No breaches reported, passive surveillance ongoing, no civilian exposure. The Kael'tari technicians stared at it. The implications were staggering. There were others, and Earth had never stopped watching. Not because they didn't trust the galaxy, but because they remembered how fragile peace could be. The assembly vote passed narrowly, 54 to 49. The Kael'tari would not seek to remove Project Resonant clauses from their treaty with Earth. They would, however, begin a sweeping audit of all shared security initiatives. Transparency protocols would be established. Strategic disclosures would be expected from Earth moving forward. It was a compromise, and one that left no side entirely satisfied. But it was peace. For now, Alex stood once again in the amphitheater, the same one where everything had changed. Reconstruction drones buzzed overhead, welding reinforcement beams where the walls had caved. The scent of ozone still lingered in cracks beneath the new stone. He ran a hand across the fresh paneling. It felt too perfect, too new, like forgetting. Counselor Rena joined him, arms behind her back. The ceremony resumes next week. Same place, new security. Hopefully no explosions this time. She didn't smile. You'll be there? Alex shook his head. I'm stepping back. Why? Because I wasn't meant to be a symbol. I was meant to be a failsafe. Rena looked at him. You saved more than the president, Alex. You saved an illusion we didn't know was dying. That safety came from us. That fear was for others. We thought we were untouchable. He turned to face her. You weren't. No one is. She nodded. I know that now. There was a pause. Then she asked the question everyone had avoided. Why didn't Earth tell us? Alex leaned on the wall. Because when Earth first joined the interstellar community, we saw what the galaxy valued: stability, order, long-range wisdom, and we knew we couldn't offer that. Not yet. He gestured toward the sky. So we sent you our best words, our scientists, our thinkers, and quietly, we made something else. Something you couldn't see until you needed it. Us? Number hope, but living, breathing, fallible. Sentinels, she said softly. Not soldiers, just humans who could take a hit if it came to that. She studied him carefully. And it came. And I took it. The wind shifted. A group of Kael'tari students passed below the amphitheater, pointing up at Alex. One carried a sketch pad. Another raised a scanner. Do you want them to stop? Rena asked. No, he said. Let them remember. Let them argue about it. Let them tell stories. He straightened. But I need to go. Back to Earth? Not yet. She raised an eyebrow. I filed a redeployment, he explained. There's an outpost on Zentari's Reach, mining colony on the edge of known space. No official threats, but a lot of tremors lately. They requested support. You're still recovering. I've had worse, he lied gently. In truth, his kinetic absorption matrix had only just restabilized. Any major confrontation within the next month would put him at real risk: soft tissue injuries that might not heal, synaptic overloads that could cause permanent neural gaps. But he needed distance. From awe. From expectation. From the myth they'd made of him. He didn't want to be a monument. He wanted to be useful. Later that evening, he visited the presidential dome one last time. President Kael'tari, still in recovery, welcomed him quietly. No cameras, no speeches. I was briefed on your injuries, the president said, offering him a drink he couldn't accept due to nutrient cycle protocols. It should have killed you. I got lucky. No, Kael'tari said. We did. He gestured toward a chair. You could stay, as an advisor, a symbol. Alex smiled, just slightly. That's the problem. I'm not a symbol. I'm just Alex. Kael'tari studied him a moment longer. Well, Alex, know that this planet will never forget what it learned from you. Alex stood. Just remember we bleed too. I'll remember. Before leaving the capital, Alex returned to the garden atop the Earth Embassy. Tara waited for him. She held a sealed case. You forgot this, she said, handing it over. Inside was his original suit, flight-woven, temperature-stabilized, fiber-reinforced solar armor, repaired now, sterilized, polished. Cleaned off the scorch marks, she added. Mostly. He nodded. Thanks. You sure about this transfer? He hesitated. It's quiet work. Maybe I need quiet. She tilted her head. You never really liked quiet. No, he said. But maybe I like not being stared at more. She stepped closer. Try not to save any more presidents for a while. I'll do my best. Their hands brushed, brief, accidental. She looked at him, then smiled. Be safe. He turned, case in hand. You too. The transport lifted before sunrise. No crowd, no anthem. Just clearance codes and suborbital trajectory data. He sat alone in the passenger cabin, strapped in, eyes closed. As the Kael'tari capital shrank below, he whispered something only the cabin walls heard. "I'm not what they think I am, but I'll be what they need." 3 days later, across the city, in a government subvault, Lucy filed her last Project Resonant report. She appended one sentence to the summary before submitting. "Earth sent us no conquerors, no overseers. They sent us someone willing to fall for us so we could learn how to stand." And in the months that followed, debates calmed. The Assembly passed legislation integrating Earth's bioethical frameworks into Kael'tari medical research. A new security division was founded not of soldiers, but of civilian responders trained in resilience and cooperative defense. Not modeled on Alex's strength, but his instinct to act. The amphitheater was renamed Sentinel Hall. In schools, a new curriculum appeared not about Alex specifically, but about Earth's history of risk, its long arc toward balance, and the choice to hide strength until it was needed most. And sometimes, when storms passed over the capital at night, and the sky shimmered with static-born light, children whispered that they'd seen a figure move in the clouds just for a moment faster than sound. No one ever proved it. They didn't need to. He wasn't legend because he couldn't be reached. He was legend because when the moment came, he didn't wait to be asked. He answered. And in doing so, he reminded an entire civilization that sometimes the strongest among us are the ones who bleed quietly, stand quietly, and only raise their fists when everything else has failed. Alex was gone. But Earth's promise had been made. And now, the galaxy would remember.